Family and friends, we are gathered here today.
What's your shirt say?
I love music. Come on, you don't know about the old school 45? Oh, you too young. You don't know. Commissioner Rowe, you know about the 45s, right? Oh my God. 45. You know about the 45s, right?
Are you saying 45 record album?
Your little thing, remember the little that you have to put inside in order to play the 45? I love music. Me too. I still got Janet Jackson and the Elder Bar.
Can everyone hear me? Can folks hear me in person and online? Can you raise your hand digitally, Paula? If you didn't hear me, can you put a digital hand up?
Was I on TV?
Yes, you were.
Oh, shit.
And also, Brian, could you hit the OK button just so we can clear the... Oh, gotcha. Can folks hear us?
Testing, testing.
Yes. Okay, great. Very good. All right, thank you all. Are we good to begin? Yes. Great. Then welcome to this June 24th meeting of the Berkeley Personnel Commission, Berkeley Unified School District Personnel Commission. We'll start with our call to order and our roll call.
Chairperson Alpert.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Roeder.
Here.
Commissioner Goldstein. Present.
Wonderful. We have quorum. We'll start with public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to give comment on any item on the agenda or not on the agenda? And there will be additional opportunity for public comment later. And if you're online, you can go ahead and raise your hand.
I'm having difficulty raising my hand.
Paula, if you're trying to speak, we can't hear you.
Oh, let me go out and come back in.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not coming through. Is this a Paula thing or is this an R thing?
Probably a me thing.
Frank, can you try and say something? Come off mute.
I hear Paula.
No, we can't hear. All right. We're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to figure out what's going on.
I can hear
We shall
Paula.
return.
Okay. I'm going to go out and come back in, Frank.
Now we can't hear them.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
I don't think they can hear us. Can you hear us?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. Just one more time. Can everyone online hear us?
Yes.
We can hear you in the room. We are good. Thank you. So let's get a timer up. Was it 2 minutes for regular public comment?
Could be 15-minute block.
Oh, 15-minute block. Is there anyone else who wishes to give public comment? I'll just see. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Paula, in 3 minutes, somewhere around there.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners. A merit system only works if the rules are followed. Right now, the district's governing board is failing its legal obligation by refusing to fully fund and implement the approved study. The district is actively undermining the merit system and the principles of equity you are sworn to protect. Instead of a fair rollout, we are seeing a fragmented, cherry-picked approach, implementing updates for a select few positions, especially those for cabinet-level members, while leaving the vast majority of classified staff stranded on outdated, uncompetitive salary lines is unacceptable. Look at our occupational therapists in Local 21, who continue to be severely underpaid compared to the surrounding market. This piecemeal rollout threatens to collapse the internal alignment of our entire workforce, worsens critical staffing shortages, and creates deep resentment. Make no mistake, this blatant disregard for your authority is part of a larger coordinated effort we are fully aware of, the Committee on the Measure, who are proposing a measure to eliminate the Personnel Commission. Folks like Nicole Chabot, former board member Ty Alper, and former board BFT president Kathy Campbell, who are all behind these attempts to undermine and dismantle the independent oversight that protects classified employees from political favoritism and unfair labor practices. They want to erase the merit system so they can make unilateral decisions without accountability. Look no further. And with this campaign, they want to actively remove the funding and strip away our workplace protections. If they succeed in dissolving the commission, the protections we have fought for decades to secure will vanish, leaving classified workers completely vulnerable. This isn't just an attack on our wages, it is a structural assault on the system itself. Let it be clear, this non-implementation of the comp and class study is an unlawful unilateral change. The Ed Code does not give the governing board a veto over your classification decisions. By leaving employees behind, the district is forcing the union's hand toward filing unfair practice charges with PERB. I'm sure they do not want litigation, but what we do want is a functioning school district. We urge the commission to stand firm and protect its authority. Use your statutory power. Formally demand that the governing board fully implement and fund the study as adopted. It is necessary. Direct your legal counsel to pursue a writ of mandate to enforce your rules. Our occupational therapists and all of the other dedicated, underpaid classified staff who keep this district running deserve the equity and respect this study promised. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. And just to be clear, that was in reference to item 8E, approval of reallocation of salary range for the Director of Nutritional Services?
No, that was my public comment about the comp and class study.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, I think that's relevant to the question in E, either way, and definitely something that I will take into consideration. Are there any other comments for public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll turn to our approval and adoption of the agenda. Are there any amendments needed for the agenda? I'll turn to Heidi.
Thank you, because I'm going to ask to pull a couple things for discussion. Could we please pull, let me just make sure I have the numbers right. These are the advanced step requests, so 7B 1 and 2. And I would ask that we also pull the nutrition services, the two eligibility lists that are 7A 3, which is the media tech, and 4, which is the nutrition services assistant.
3 and 4, so library, media tech, and nutrition services.
Correct.
Okay, 3 and 4. All right, we'll take those up first.
We have to, do we have to agree?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, right.
Saying, well, I'm assuming we will.
Okay.
So I move that we approve the meeting agenda with the moving of the consent items 7A3, 7A4, and both items under 7B for discussion and action.
Thank you. That was a much more eloquent way to put it.
And
Thank you.
I assume a second over here, and I concur.
Yes. Okay.
So that will be the agenda. We'll turn to our approval of meeting minutes. We have both meeting May 19 and May 27th. Are there any corrections needed to either of those minutes? No. Is there a motion?
You want to do them one at a time?
No, we can do both.
All right. I'll move that we approve as they are on the meeting minutes from the special meeting on May 19th and the regular meeting minutes from May 27th.
I second.
And I concur. All right, we'll turn to our reports. First, we'll hear reports from our union representatives. Are there any representatives of any of our staff unions wishing to give reports? And I'll start with in-person, and then we'll turn to online. Or actually, I guess it's up to BCCE how you want to arrange it, but because you're both here. You and Frank are both here. I don't know if either of you want
Ask
to go
Frank,
first.
does he want me to speak or does he want to speak?
Frank is pointing at you digitally.
Oh, he's pointing at me?
Yeah.
Where is he? I don't see him.
He's, above us in the cloud.
Okay, Cloud. I can't see that. It's called glasses. All right. Good evening, commissioners. Brian, Sarah. Okay, so as we close out another year, I first want to wish all of you a restful and enjoyable summer. This school year has certainly brought many challenges, many important conversations, and many difficult decisions. However, sorry, Roder, before we leave for summer break, there are issues that must be stated tonight and formally put on the record because they speak to growing concerns regarding classified work within this district. So there are things that you will hear, maybe not at this meeting, but they're coming up, and I would like to be put on record, okay? Thank you. So I want to speak candidly about the growing concerns surrounding the request to make the after-school program specialist position at Sylvia Mendez bilingual. At some point, we have to ask an important question. When did parents begin having the authority to dictate classified positions, job requirements, and bargaining unit work? Parents absolutely have the right to advocate for their children and voice concerns about educational programs, but determining job classifications, required qualifications, and how positions are structured within our classified workforce is not their role. That responsibility belongs to the district, the Personnel Commission, and the employee who performs this work under an established merit system. What concerns me deeply is that outside pressure is now being used to alter a long-standing classification that has existed successfully in this district for years. And I want to be very clear about this point. This position does not need to be bilingual. There have been employees who have worked in this exact program for decades and have successfully performed every aspect of this work without being bilingual. The actual duties of the position have not changed, so if the work itself has not changed, why are we suddenly changing the qualifications? Sylvia Mendez being a dual immersion school does not mean every classified position at that school must automatically become bilingual. That is not how dual immersion works. And creating requirements that are not connected to actual jobs is inappropriate. And respectfully, if there is truly a question about what this position requires, then we should be talking to the employees who actually perform the work every single day, not making assumptions based on outside pressure or perception. What is happening here is that parents are using the argument of student need as a way to influence and reshape classified positions that have historically functioned perfectly well without these additional requirements. But beyond that, there is a much larger issue at stake. When you create a one-off bilingual designation for a classification that exists district-wide, you disrupt seniority protections for every employee in that classification. You create a system where someone with years of service, experience, and dedication could lose their position before a newer employee simply because an unnecessary bilingual requirement was added to that one position. That is fundamentally unfair. And I also want to put something else on the record tonight. We continue to see a troubling pattern across this district where classified positions are being eliminated, reduced, or changed. Positions that historically belong to BCCE employees and that perform essential day-to-day operational work. Yet, at the very same time, we continue to see higher-level supervisory management and director positions being upgraded or expanded. So I think it is fair to ask the question, are classified positions being sacrificed in order to fund management positions? Because here's the reality, our work is our work. You cannot continue eliminating the employees who perform the actual day-to-day operational work of this district while simultaneously expanding management structures above them. And when classified positions disappear, somebody still has to do the work. The work does not disappear. Classified employees have contracts. We have negotiated protections. We work under a merit system designed to ensure fairness, consistency, and equity. And I want to say this respectfully, just because the board may have chosen to fold under outside pressure does not mean the Personnel Commission has to do the same. Your role is different. Your responsibility is to protect the integrity of classifications, ensure positions are based on actual job duties, and uphold the merit system. not simply validate decisions made under political pressure. Those systems cannot and should not be reshaped simply because outside groups believe they should have control over positions they do not perform and classifications they do not understand. And I want to put one final thing on the record tonight. If this continues happening in this district, if classified positions continue being changed, reduced, eliminated, or restructured while management positions continue growing, remember that I said this here tonight, because I will be back. I will continue, we, BCCE, will continue fighting for our work, our positions, and our members. BCCE work belongs to BCCE employees, and we will not stop defending the integrity of the work we do for this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, you're up next if you wanted to say anything. All right. Are there any other unions that wish to give comment? All right. Do we have a district report?
Hello, this is Samantha Tobias Espinoza, Assistant Superintendent of HR. I don't have much to report other than the fact that we survived another school year, and we are continuing to move forward, working in partnership with our unions as well as with the Personnel Commission. And I am looking forward to working together with Aaron, your Executive Director, as well as others in holding a hiring event this summer to help us to continue our good progress on hiring and creating positions and getting rid of contractors.
Thank you. We look forward to the same. Commissioner report. I'll turn to my colleagues. Any reports from my fellow commissioners?
I can start, which is to thank everybody for what has been a very interesting academic year and some very interesting issues. We've seen a lot cross our paths, and we are seeing some new structural dynamics that we're going to find we need to deal with, all kinds of structural dynamics, and we've heard about two of them here. One is the committee that is devoted to the dissolution of the Personnel Commission, and the other is the dynamic of tough budgets and what is happening on the classified side, and how we continue to, support what the district does, what the classified service needs to do to make this school district run. On a happier front, I'm happy to see that we heard back from the Alameda County Office of Education with respect to our 26-27 budget, and they have approved it and filed it on the behalf of their business services executive. And I know we will talk more about this later, but one of the things that has been notable this year, and I'm still sort of scratching my head about what to make of it, is the volume of applicants that we have seen for our open position. I mean, obviously, we've been beating the bushes for our hard-to-fill positions, and we know why we've seen that. And we've done a great job addressing the contractor issues here and have made substantial progress there. It looks like one of our next frontiers is going to be I don't know if we're getting AI-generated applications or it's a function of the economy or what it is, but, for some positions, we've got triple digits worth of applicants, and that's going to have implications for the way we handle the work here. So, that's something that I know is on the horizon. And just as an example, I'm sure our executive director will talk about this, but, for the volume that came through just in the month of May with 20 work days, that came to over 15 exams of some sort per workday in May, and that's a real ramp up. So, on the one hand, I am, it's been a very interesting year, and I hope we rest up over the summer because we're going to have some hefty, meaty issues to deal with at the beginning of next year.
Thank you. And I will just note for that we'll be discussing under 8F. We'll be talking about the volume. So that's directly related in the conversation I'm looking forward to having.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I don't have anything additional to add to Commissioner Goldstein's comments. I agree with all of them. We have a lengthy agenda. So I'm just going to wish everybody here and online a very happy summer. And thank you for everything that you've done and you do and you will do.
And I will also, similarly, I think we'll have plenty to discuss, but thank you to everyone. I think I've only been, this is my second year now on the commission, but I definitely feel like just in that time, things have gotten improved in terms of cooperation between the commission and the union, and the commission and the district, between the hiring fairs and all of the various things that, the budget went better this time than last time, and, so it's always good to be trending up, and hopefully we can continue that into the summer and the next year. With that, I'll turn it over to our personnel director.
Thank you. Someone does have their hand up, and I believe it was from public comments. Would it be okay to?
Yeah, let me go back to that then. Who has their hand up? Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, I'm sorry if I'm talking out of place. I just joined the meeting and I just wanted to make sure on the agenda that you guys were discussing something of interest of our school at Sylvia Mendez. There's a bilingual specialist position. I didn't see it on the agenda, and I wanted to see if that's the case or not.
Yeah, so this is we discussed this a little bit at our last meeting. This is something that the Personnel Commission only deals with in response to a request from the school board.
Correct. So, and it's my understanding that they had voted on that during the last meeting, and that it should be on today's agenda. That's why I'm asking.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm including it in our next agenda. It didn't make it on time to come to this meeting.
Gotcha.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, because there's a critical personnel, thing happening within the next couple of days. That's why I wanted to make sure it got on today's agenda.
I don't know about something critical happening in the next couple of days.
Well, my understanding is that some positions are going to be opened within the next couple of days. And I just was trying to make that make this happen beforehand. That's why we pushed so hard to have you guys talk about that this evening.
So the specialist position at Sylvia Mendez, as far as I know, is not going to become vacant anytime soon. And so the recruitments or the positions that we approved tonight don't really have any relationship to the bilingual position that we're talking about.
Yeah, my understanding was that on the between the 25th and 26th, basically the end of the month here, vacancies were going to start to potentially open up throughout, which could essentially open up a vacancy at our location. That's why I wanted the urgency on this. Thank you.
If I may, I think he's referring to the program lead positions for the after-school program. And those positions will be a full recruitment and will not impact any other positions for at least probably a month, if not two, at this point, because of the time period needed to assess and have the Personnel Commission do their job of creating an eligibility list. So even though the positions may be posted, if the Personnel Commission approves them tonight, they will not be filled for quite a while.
Okay. Well, just want to make sure that gets on the next meeting. When is the next agenda meeting, if you don't mind me asking, for this particular item?
So the next meeting, August 27th. August 27th is the next meeting of the commission, and that item will be on the agenda. If it was forwarded from the board within the past week, it probably wouldn't have been timely for this meeting. But
that's too bad, because that means that the beginning of the school, there's no chance we're going to have this critical position filled.
So this seems to be an out of order situation.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you to everyone. We will be discussing this in a future meeting. Point being. All right. I'll hand it back over to Erin for her report.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all here. Nice to see Mildred, our staff. I'll go ahead and begin with a brief overview of our activity report for May. Our team stayed very busy, as Heidi pointed out. We have established 4 new eligibility lists, And then, as you can all see on page 8, our staff administered 308 exams across several recruitments, and I know Heidi counted 15. I counted 16 because of the extra holiday, which wasn't a work day. So we've been averaging around 11, so this is more than our average. And then also with our HR support, we processed 4 new hires and 1 promotion. Also, as an update to summer school, it's well underway. PC staff has posted all of the summer positions, and they've made 168 summer school assignments. These are classified assignments only, with almost all of those assignments going to BUSD 10-month employees. And then special shout out to Brian for taking the lead on this year. Also with the expanded learning team that collaborated with us so closely in coordinating all of summer school. And then I also want to provide an update on layoffs. 16 employees were ultimately affected by layoffs. Of the 16 employees, 5 employees took reductions in FTE, and then 11 were reassigned to other positions. So those employees were also placed on the 39-month reemployment list and will be offered their old positions if they become available. I'm also pleased to share that we held our 6th and our final IA2 SPED staffing and recruitment committee meeting of this school year. So during the meeting, the committee focused on our onboarding practices, our site placement, and then we began talking about strategies for supporting our new hires during their transition into the district. So we also reviewed opportunities to further streamline our onboarding timelines, and then how to get new employees the support and the training necessary for longer term success with the district. That's definitely going to be the conversation that we pick up when we meet again. And so again, special thanks to special ed staff, HR, BCCE, and PC staff, all for participating and collaborating on this committee. So in relation to that, I want to share an IA2 SPED staffing summary. So for the month of June, we've had 8 new IA2 SPED employees hired, and we've had 1 separation this month. So that makes a total of 231 IA2 SPED positions district-wide, and 39, we have 39 current vacancies. Although some have been filling in the last couple of days, so that number might have changed. Also during that last week of school, there were 28 contractors in use and only 1 unaccounted for contractor assignment. So given this information over the next few months, the PC team will continue to focus heavily on filling these vacancies and strengthening, again, our recruitment efforts. So as Sam mentioned, we are preparing our one-day recruitment and hiring event, and it's scheduled for July 23rd. So we'll be sharing out information about the event to our staff and our community partners. And our goal, again, for the event is to streamline hiring and onboard as many candidates as possible before the start of the school year. And then also, just before I conclude, I do want to thank wish everyone a restful and enjoyable summer. The commission will not be meeting in July, but the PC's work certainly won't slow down. Our team continues to stay busy with summer school, and that's when we beef up a lot of our recruitments and administering exams, and then preparing for the start of the 26-27 school year. So we are looking forward to returning in August with a lot of positive updates on our recruitment efforts and staffing. So I also want to thank you, commissioners, in particular, for your dedication, practically volunteering your time, and we really appreciate it, and how you support BSD employees and staff. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Aaron, with respect to the instructional technicians for the before and after school program, Now, I may have my facts wrong, and so I want you to correct them if I do. As I understand it, I believe on the consent calendar of one of the recent Board of Education meetings, there was a renewal or, I don't know, extension, I don't know how you want to put it, I guess of the Alivo contract for, and I think that would be, at least in part, for the instructional technicians. And so at a recent meeting, I think you told us that for the sort of the first time in recorded memory, all the vacancies had been filled for instructional technician. So I guess my question is, because I don't want to get into the same position we were in with the IA SPEDS, where there are contractors working in positions for which there's no FTE, and therefore, even if we wanted to hire BUSD employees, we couldn't because there's no FTE. So can you kind of elaborate on that question?
Yeah, so I know for a fact that the district has identified positions that they're going to be establishing this summer to fill those IT assignments. And so they are establishing, I forget the number, but it's definitely over 10 new IT positions. And so we'll be recruiting for IT as well, so that we don't have to rely on those contractors any longer.
Okay.
Sam has her hand up, so she might have more detailed information about.
Yeah, so that Elevo contract is a backup plan, so that we have staff to be able to serve students on the first day of school, just in case we aren't able to do our hiring goals this summer, which is to fill all IT vacancies. We have 13 new vacancies that have been created. The board has already approved the funding for them. We just were clarifying locations and FTE and schedules so that we could then fill them. And that's our plan this summer, is to focus on trying to fill those positions as well as continuing to make a dent in our IA2 special ed. And so we will not have any more than 13 contractors, but we are hoping that we will still have none, even though we have that contract approved as a just in case.
And we
for
do
that.
have a lot of, not a lot, but we have several pending onboards for the IT candidates that have recently gotten the list. We just sent them a list with 11 additional employee candidates. So I know that HR is actively working on onboarding those ITs for the fall.
And do I remember correctly that your job fairs, Aaron, that you and Samantha work on are kind of a combination of IA SPED and IT
Yes,
positions?
we did allow our IT candidates to come in, and we're also inviting those that have started the application process to come in person to finalize onboarding on the day of our event. So we do expect some ITs to attend our event, as well as maybe we'll revisit the vacancy report right before the event, but it's likely that we'll also have some IATKs or IA bears, several other positions.
Okay, and last question, so, and will you be sort of reaching out and doing your recruitment activities, whether it's to colleges or, basically people who could serve as ITs as part of this effort?
Absolutely. We just checked about that today. We checked in with staff, and we're all targeting colleges and other community spaces for this upcoming week, and we're going to kind of spread out and send out our flyers, working on flyers, and try to recruit at career centers. So we are on it.
Great, thank you.
Totally different questions. When I was looking at your May stats for exams, there were two that jumped out, and I'm just wondering if you have any idea why there were 72 applications for library specialist and 107 for the computer tech one?
I think that I might have some ideas, but I think we are going to talk about high volume recruitments in this meeting. So I think we should address, because I supplied like a data, and there's actually several other recruitments that fall in that category, so we could definitely discuss.
Under 8F,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that.
yeah.
All right, any other questions for the director? Seeing none, we'll turn to our consent calendar, which now includes, I guess let's take up the items pulled from consent first, and then we'll vote on the consent calendar as a whole.
Do you want to start with the eligibility list?
Let's do the eligibility list first. So let's do eligibility list 3, library media technician,
Sure, okay.
and go ahead, Commissioner.
So, as is my practice, just because typically we have pretty tight turnaround, and because this was one of these really high volume positions, we seem to have a lot of applicants. We also had a fairly long interval in terms of the number of days for clearing the thing to the point of being ready to hire. And I don't want to assume anything. So I'm just interested to understand what happened here. It looks like there was a total of actually over 100 exams administered for the library tech.
Yeah, exactly. So we had to work very closely with the hiring manager to try to help us coordinate a panel that could take on this like our scoring of our exams. We administered written exams, and we had 128 applications that screened in, and so we had to administer the written exam, and we had such a large amount of candidates that participated that getting subject matter experts to have availability at this time of the year was very challenging for us, and then also to get them to schedule a separate group of subject matter experts to, it's 2 different groups. We get SMEs that help us score, and then we also get SMEs that can be part of an oral exam panel, and so it took about, a month to get the 2 exams set up.
And was it the time of year, or was it the volume, or was it both?
It was both.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
And then the next one is
Nutrition
on
services.
health. Yes.
Right, and that is sort of the same question. This one, it looked like we had many fewer exams administered, and again, I don't want to assume, so just trying to understand what, contributed to the delay.
So this one was, I believe, 2.5 weeks between the exams, and we had a very low applicant pool, likely because of the time of the year. It was also a recruitment that we conducted to establish an eligibility list because we needed subs. So that could be why we had such low volume. So we also need to coordinate with our nutrition services staff because they provide the space for us to hold a performance exam. This is a performance exam-based assessment we do, and so that took some time because of the time of the year.
Thank you. And it was a little hard for me to tell, but I think looking at the list, we added 3 new people. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. So why don't we, do you have any questions for any of these 2? Let's take up all of the eligibility lists as one item. I will make a motion to approve ratification of eligibility lists. Got to slow down when I say that word. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is there a second?
I second.
And I agree.
All right, then we'll approve those, and now we'll move on to our advanced step requests, which will take one at a time. So we'll start with Jay Zimmerman. I'll turn it over to our executive director.
Thank you. So this is a request for advanced step placement for Joey Zimmerman. He's an instructional assistant to special ed. Mr. Zimmerman brings directly related experience as an RBT, registered behavior technician, supporting students with disabilities, and he holds a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley. So given his experience, educational background, and ongoing recruitment challenges with the IA2 SPED classification, I'm recommending approval of step 3.
Thank you. Is Mr. Zimmerman, or anyone else for that matter, wishing to give comment on this item? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions on the item? Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of Jay Zimmerman's request to be at step 3.
And I'll support, just noting that it's our executive director's recommendation for step 3, right?
Yes, not his request, technically. Request for advanced step, but the recommendation is step 3.
Right.
And I agree. That will take us to our second item on this list, which is for A. Darshini.
Okay, and this is a request for advanced step placement for R.D. Darshini, who was hired as a nutrition services assistant. Ms. Darshini brings several years of food service experience in both school district and healthcare settings as well, including prior experience with BUSD and their nutrition services department. While I do acknowledge and appreciate Ms. Darshini's experience and her commitment to the district, I'm not recommending approval of this request. Based on the commission's rubric, the nutrition services assistant classification is not currently considered a difficult recruitment. The prior recruitment yielded 44 applicants, and then 10 candidates were placed on the list, although the one we saw today placed an additional 3. That was for substitutes only, or at least that's why we posted it. The district currently has no vacancies in that classification. There hasn't been a lot of turnover, and so I don't feel that the request meets the criteria that we've established for placement, advanced step placement.
All right. Are there any questions? First of all, is the applicant or any other person making to wish public comment on this item? No. Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners?
None from me. I appreciate the explanation.
Yes. In my 5 or 6 years now on the commission, nutrition services for that entire period of time has been considered, I believe, again, if my facts are wrong, I would like staff to point that out, but has been considered a hard-to-fill position. And now it's not. So I guess my question is, and this is, it's kind of a semi-digression, but in a way, why I think it would be very difficult to have a list of hard-to-fill positions, because they change. And so I guess my question is the fact that at our last recruitment, with the exception of the latest one for substitutes, the fact that there were 44 applicants, I think you said, Aaron, is that necessarily a trend? Or what gives rise to the fact that now all of a sudden, at least from my standpoint, my recollection, there's all these applicants, and we expect that to continue? I guess I need a little bit more explanation and justification for switching this from a hard-to-fill position to a not hard-to-fill position.
So I do remember when it was a difficult recruitment, but I would say maybe in the last year, it hasn't been anymore. We haven't needed to run a recruitment in a while, and actually that's why we ran the recruitment that yielded so many applicants, because it had been a long time. We didn't have a lot of turnover. But I don't know if you recall, at some point, the district got together with the Nutrition Services Department to raise FTE for a lot of those positions. That's why, because there were so many part-time positions in the Nutrition Services Department. And so they raised the FTE. I know at some point they increased the salary range as well. And so I think all of those factors contributed to us being able to retain employees in that classification and for there not to be a lot of turnover.
Okay, thank you. I do recall that the one of the big problems was the fact that the FTE was so low that we weren't getting a lot of applicants for that job. And now, is the FTE, would you consider it actually full-time positions?
Yes, most of them are 1.0 FTE
Okay,
positions.
thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. And I agree, we discussed the prior meeting at my request whether a list of hard-to-fill classifications was appropriate. It seemed like our consensus at the time was probably not. And I think that's probably true, and yet, anyway, no such thing as a perfect system. Any other questions, comments, or is there a motion?
I'll move to support our executive director's recommendation for no change in step placement here.
I second that.
And I regretfully agree with my appreciation to the applicant.
I do agree.
All right, that will take us through our consent calendar. Conference items. Okay, we've got quite the balance on conference. I'm going to ask us to take up both item 8A and 8B as one discussion. They relate to the same position. So there are two separate items. One is approving a new classification, and one is reclassifying the person currently in the comparable role into that new classification. And so if there's any comment on A or B, we can take them up at the same time. And Erin, if you want to discuss them as one item, feel free.
Okay, yes, so this item is approval of the proposed new classification for Director Civil Rights and Compliance, which would replace the former Compliance Officer and Title IX Coordinator classification. The request comes following recommendations from the EH&A classification and comp study and a review of the position's expanded responsibilities. Since that class was established back in 2015, the role has grown significantly and now serves as the district's lead administrator for Title IX, civil rights compliance, complaint procedures, also some staff training and related regulatory requirements. So the Board of Education approved the job duties and a salary recommendation at our June 17th meeting. I've included that memo as well. And the proposed salary placement aligns with the director level classifications that have those district-wide leadership responsibilities and supervisory duties. And so now the Personnel Commission could approve the class spec, the minimum qualifications, and salary placement. So I'm recommending that we move forward on approving the new classification.
All right. And then, I think that takes us through both of those. So are there any questions? Well, first let's talk about the actual new classification. So do folks have any questions or comments on the details of the new classification, on the duties or the qualification requirements?
So I'll note that it also includes Title VI responsibilities, which is sort of like the Title IX for employees, equivalent, discrimination issues. So this is a role, when we first, I think, conceived of it in the district, was meant to be Title IX student-facing, and it really has expanded, and it's expanded in important ways that have been pretty consistent with the way the state of California has moved to protect civil rights, compared to national trends. So, I'm for one, glad to see this. And I'll just comment that, for the item B here, Jasmina Vitesic, who has been our Title IX coordinator, I think has been here since November of 2021, if I'm remembering correctly, came with great credentials and now has significant runtime with our district, knows our policies, knows our issues, knows our practices, knows our students, has made great strides with the students. So, this is, we should have done this earlier. So I'm happy to see this.
Go ahead.
I'm just sort of curious about one aspect. Will the district still be having a compliance officer and Title IX coordinator in addition to the director, or?
No, so this will replace that position. It's consolidating. There's still an investigator, and then I know a
Right.
second investigator position was established that they are looking to fill.
Okay.
And that brings up a good question for me, actually. So thank you. Is it that we are retooling that classification into this classification, or do we need to also formally eliminate that previous classification?
As far as process, I don't think that we've eliminated old classifications when we kind of incorporate the duties into a new one. But I do know that the plan is not to keep that compliance officer.
Okay. Is there any issue with having dormant classifications that are not intended to be like actually filled?
I don't think so, but I know the district will eliminate it officially as far as like assigning
Sure.
a position.
The position will be eliminated, but
Yeah.
the classification will still exist in our
Yeah.
list of potential classifications.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
don't
not really
believe
any
there's an
particular
issue.
reason. Okay. Before we
Every now
continue-
and then, we will revisit an old classification. We might bring it back.
Sure.
So,
I guess there's no reason. I will turn to public comment if there is any public comment from members of the public in person or online on either of these items, A or B. Paula, I see you now, but are you hoping to give public comment? If you want to give public comment, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll recognize you.
she has to unmute. Paula, can
we
you
have to unmute her,
unmute?
but
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had a hard time. I'm having a hard time with it. I can't even find the button to raise my hand. Nothing is coming up. But thank you for bearing with me. So the union is in agreement, and I don't know if you're at the point for the physical therapist for the local 21 position. We're in agreement with that position. There is a need for it for a physical therapist.
we're just talking about the Director of Civil Rights Compliance.
So the Director of Civil Rights Compliance, you asked me if my comments speak to it. And so, yes, they do. It does inadvertently, because the district seems to be cherry picking positions that it wants to reclassify. And I'm going to speak to, you've had other employees within BCCE who have asked for reclassification, and they've been stalled out for a number of years, but yet these other positions keep coming forward, and other positions keep getting reclassified, and other positions keep getting created. And I don't see the fairness or the equity in the way these reclassifications are happening. So the OTs are grossly underpaid, but yet there have been several reclassifications of upper management positions, and this one is just one of the recent ones. The associate superintendent, or the new associate superintendent, is a non-represented upper management level position. That was done within the past 3 years at least. And then there have been others that have been rolled out. The classification study has been stalled. I disagree with the reclassification, and I'm not taking it, it's not a personal attack. It's just that the way the district is implementing these reclassifications or bringing forward the push to reclassify staff is inequitable. In addition to the way your director is approaching the reclassifications, in some cases from staff. And I'm going to speak on one particular staff member who I've assisted, and that's Marie Ferguson over at the high school. So it's just an inequitable process with the way these classifications are being done, and I disagree with reclassifying this position, especially in the times of budget cuts. And with the fact that the district demoted a large group of BCCE members as part of the layoffs and forced them to go back to their former positions. So I feel that the district is using demotions to balance the budget and to reclassify positions at higher levels. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public wishing to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll turn back to the items. So are there any other questions or discussion comment from my fellow commissioners on these items?
Well, are we also turning to the, well, it seems that logically we need to create the new position and then.
Yeah. I guess my request is that we would discuss them all at the same time and then motions can be made sequentially.
Okay. Well, I do, if it's in order, I have a question in sort of general terms about reclassifications.
Please.
In this. And maybe I need help from Aaron on this. I'm a little confused under what circumstances when we have, and I think this reclassification of this individual into the director role makes a lot of sense. I'm not opposed to it, but I don't understand the process exactly. I don't really understand or know when it is that we have an individual in a, for want of a better term, subordinate position, a different position in the district, in the same department. And then we create a new classification, in this case, director. When is it that that person who's currently an incumbent in a position sort of gets reclassified into a new position, into that new director position? And when is it that we open up and post the director position sort of, you know, as an open position for which that individual can apply and may be highly qualified to do so? But when do we do one and when do we do the other? And the last thing I'll say on that is, does it have anything to do with the class and comp study that we've approved?
So as far as the new classification, when I receive a request, whether it's from a manager for their employee or from the employee directly, you know, we engage in several meetings, desk audits, or, you know, we have several meetings with both supervisors and the employee. What we do is that we start working on a revised, if needed, a revised class description. And so once we've coordinated the duties with the employee, we show it to supervisors if needed. We vet that the work is being performed, and then we submit, if there is a union, we would submit also that draft class description to the union so that they can review as well. And then I can start looking at making a compensation study, essentially based on the duties. But we do submit the duties to the board or the district. And so they then take it to a board meeting because the board is approving just the duties. And then at that point, it comes to me. We would recommend either based on if there is an incumbent or if it's just a new classification. It's, you know, if it's a new classification, it's not a reclass, then we post it like we will with these other positions that we're bringing forward. We post it and we recruit. But if there's a current employee in place who's been performing the duties and it's a reclassification, then the incumbent is basically reclassified.
So this is really and I'll be done in a second. This is really truly a reclassification in the sense that we have an incumbent employee who has been performing duties out of class for at least 2 years, and
Yes.
there's been a gradual accretion of those duties, and now we've recognized that fact, created the new class, and this person who's been performing those duties is asking for a reclassification into that class. Is that kind of the conceptual concept of this
Yes,
thing?
that's correct.
All right, any other questions or discussion on this item? As our Title IX expert.
Now, I think you got it. It's more one of an incumbent and scope creep. I think, just to note, I don't think that the incumbent actually requested this reclass. I think when we did the class and comp study, they observed it based on their interviews and surveys about the work. I'll also note that this is a sort of a single-threaded position. It's a one-off. There's only one person in the position. And I have some sympathy for what Paula brought up with respect to, if you can't do everybody, how are you making these decisions? And a pattern I think I see in our district is for the single-threaded positions, that typically head a department, it's a strategic decision, it looks like to me. The board obviously should speak for itself on this, but that strategic decision that says, when you only have one of them, get the best possible candidate you can in that position, and, then let them run it. And that is the strategy, I think, that I see here.
I make one, go ahead and comment.
I was just going to say, and then we'll turn to our late public commenter. We'll get in afterward. But I take seriously the point that was raised about picking and choosing which positions to reclassify. And I think one thing I'm going to talk to, I'm going to ask us to discuss in our next meeting is like an update on the status of our class and comp study and what has been done and what hasn't been done, what outstanding things there are to do. I don't think that it's within our purview exactly to dictate that. That's a question for the board. It's both a budget question and a frankly, it's a political policy budget question. And so we can only do what the board has requested, right? So it's not our place necessarily to say, you must do these, but it does trouble me that, only some places are being brought forward for reclassification or right fixing, the correction kind of to the norm. So if there is a way for us to, obviously, I guess before I say that, obviously it also comes in the context of the budget, right? We can't do everything we want to do when we have a limited budget, but I think certainly it should be a priority moving forward to fix those things. And if there's a way that we can help move the district in that direction, I'm interested in hearing both from the union and from our staff about how we can approach that. And I'll turn to Aaron and then Commissioner Roeder and then our public comment.
Well, I was just going to comment that, the last I heard as well was that they were negotiating, with BCCE. I'm not sure about Local 21, but they were discussing, the class and comp study. But I don't know if that's happened recently. I know at some point it was happening, and I don't have a recent update on that. So maybe Mildred knows more. Sam actually has her hand up too. So, maybe we can now get an update on that, since it's coming up.
Well, can I make a comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
So my comment, it's more about understanding what the process is for this and seeing if my understanding is accurate or not. And it differs, I think, maybe a little bit from what you were describing.
I would be very happy to be wrong.
I'm not sure it differs that much, but maybe a little bit, in that I think that it is within our purview as the Personnel Commission, when an employee applies for a reclassification, basically saying, and it may appear in the class and comp study that this employee is working outside of class and therefore requests a reclassification, then it is the Personnel Commission's duty, in the first instance, our executive director doing a desk audit, seeing if the duties are different, and if they are, has it been, a 2-year accretion of duties at least, and then if the answer is yes, our executive director would come back to us, and we have the power, I believe, without the Board of Education, to make that reclassification happen. And it's at least my understanding, I know Paula Phillips brought up Marie Ferguson, it's my understanding that that's the process that's taking place with her, and we should at some point get an update and make sure we're moving that along. But that's my understanding of the process. Now, when it comes to salaries, and when it comes to establishing new salary ranges for positions, that I think is a matter of negotiation between the district and the unions that is outside of our ability. We can't dictate what the salaries are going to be. We can dictate sort of the ranges, where employee or where classifications fit in within those that family of salary ranges, but not say this salary range gets a 5% increase or a 10% increase or what have you. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I appreciate that correction, because I should know better, because I have been on the commission when we've approved reclasses. So it's not that we can't, it's that we can't originate it, right? I mean, basically it's coming from either the district or from the employees, but either way it does come to us, which is much more accurate than what I said. Please, go ahead.
I have several comments. First and foremost, I want to please make sure that you note what I said in my speech earlier based off of what is happening today. I really need to make sure that I see that in the minutes, whoever's going to write them up. It's very important. So when we come back and we're talking about some things in the fall, I want to be able to come back and say, do you remember I said this? Okay, that's number one. Number two, every time I hear E&H consultants, I cringe, because I don't know if you all recall, there was a deep concern with the way that whole process went. So if we're doing reclasses or anything based off of anything that they suggested, we are actually not paying attention and not doing what we're supposed to do, because they did not follow the rules and they did not do what they were supposed to do. I'm not talking about any specific classification. I'm just saying in a whole, we should not be making decisions based off of E&H when they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Yes, we are meeting with the district regarding the class and comp. We haven't met in a while. There has been a lot going on, but we were at the table with the district to talk about the class and comp. We're going over the job descriptions with the district and talking about them, going through them, so there's a process, but we haven't met in a while, and I'm sure that we will get back on the calendar with scheduling the BCCE positions to discuss the class and comp. So I wanted to say that. One last thing. I wish we would stop with the title stuff that's going on. I keep hearing all these creation of titles and this title, that title, all that stuff, not just with BCCE or Local 21 or whoever it may be. Our district has a problem with titles. Because you know what I would like to see? The work. I want to see the work being done. I don't care about the title. Let's see the work. So if we're changing titles and money and all that other stuff, I think the proof that we need to see is the work being done. So I hope we are doing our due diligence to look and actually doing the audits or whatever needs to be done to make sure the work is being done. Forget the titles. I know we can't forget the titles. What I'm saying is it's not about titles. And I would like to know process and procedures as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Did Paula already comment on this? Oh, Sam had her hand up. Go ahead, Sam, and then, Oh, okay. Sam, did you want to give comment?
She might have stepped.
Mildred said it perfectly. I agree with what she stated, and I don't have any further comment.
Well, thank you. And then, Paula, you already spoke on this item, so if you want to speak again, go ahead, but keep it brief.
Okay, I'm unmuted. So I just want to say that, yes, when the district brings something to the commission to be reclassified or create a new position, because it sounds like it's based on the duties that the current incumbent is doing. And if that's the case, then is the director going out and doing a desk audit of that those incumbents' duties? Because it's taken an inordinate amount of time for her to complete a desk audit for an employee who's been requesting a reclass for the past 2 to 3 years or maybe more than that. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Start off with, is there a motion on the reclass? The reclassification, let me get this right in my verbiage here. Is there a motion on the approval of the new classification of the Director of Civil Rights and Compliance?
I'll move that we approve this new classification for District Civil Rights and Compliance Director.
I second.
And
Agree.
I concur. And having created that new classification, do we have a motion on the reclassification of the incumbent in the prior classification into this new classification?
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Roeder's looking at me, yes. I'll go ahead and move that we reclass the incumbent in the old role, doing the new role. And I'll add that, our understanding of what that person is doing is based on how that individual responded to the EH&A survey. And I guess just because I watched this and know a lot about it, believe that that work was accurate.
Actually, and before we continue with that, I just realized I have a question, which is, do we know what rank she's moving into in the new? Because it's only advancing one rank.
No. So I provided, you should see the.
I think it
should
moves
be
from
able
like a
to see.
74 to an 85 range.
Okay.
It stays on the same schedule. There's all of these, I think, are trying to
Same
homogenize
schedule.
director levels at range 85.
But in terms of her step placement, is she going, which step is she landing at?
It's likely she might, so it's not step for step. When you reclass the district, their policy is to put you at the step that gets you at least 5% more than,
So she'll likely be at step 1 of the new range?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, but that's not something that we have to address on our end?
no, it's the district has their policy and their past practice.
Great.
So, yeah.
Cool. And then in that case, I will second the motion.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And that takes us through those two items. All right. So next up, we have approval of new classification, educational physical therapist, which I will turn over first to Aaron, and then I'll go directly to public comment. I know that the union wants to speak on this. So go ahead.
So this item is for approval of a new educational physical therapist classification to support the district's special ed program and provide physical therapy to students with disabilities. The class was developed collaboratively with HR, Local 21, and the special ed department. The Board of Education approved the job duties, and the PC is now being asked to approve the classification spec, the minimum qualifications, and the salary placement. So the proposed salary placement was developed through a review of our internal alignment and external market comparisons, which I provided. And so I'm recommending approval for the class and the salary placement as presented.
Wonderful. And then Paula, would you like to speak on this? No, okay. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, are there any questions from commissioners?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So in no particular order, is this a single position or would we have multiples of this?
I believe there will be multiples. And again, it's a position that the district is creating to eliminate contractor usage.
Do we have any idea how many multiples? We're talking like 2, we're talking 10, we're talking 200 like IA speds. I have no idea.
What a
the
district
scale.
we'd be if we had 200 physical therapists.
Yeah.
Sam might know because she has her hand raised, so I'll turn it to Sam. Sam, you.
I believe it will be at least 2, but not more than 3. We currently have multiple contractors, but most of them are doing less than 1.0 because, and so they're spread out. But they will be at least 2 FTE, possibly even 3.
Thank you. Thank you. A different question, because we seem inconsistent about where this is applied, and I am just trying to find out if it's intentional that it reads this way or it's a legacy carryover. This one in the minimum quals requires a valid California driver's license.
Oh, that's right.
And I noticed that in other job descriptions, what we say instead is ability to travel between multiple sites on a daily basis. So I'm wondering, does this really require a California driver's license, and if so, why?
I actually apologize. That was an oversight. We should keep it consistent and just require that they can get to multiple locations.
Right, you use the other language,
Yes.
just ability to
Yes.
travel, right?
Yeah, because we changed that in our last item. The old classification had the driver's license, the new one doesn't.
No, it's hard to get something like that out of the system, and it shows up everywhere, so.
Certainly.
That's what I thought it was. A different question then is, and I guess I ought to look at the updated wage scale maybe that was included with this, because I looked at the online one. Okay, all right. Right, this is a different wage scale. Okay. I don't have that question anymore. Okay. No more questions from me. Thank you.
I have a question, which is a pretty minor one, which is that in the classification we just approved, there was a section under hazards, which included contact with dysregulated, assaultive, or abusive individuals, potential physical hazards involved in intervening in fights and other antisocial and violent behaviors, and exposure to bloodborne pathogens and infectious disease, which I understand that this classification is different in that they're not necessarily dealing with all the same populations, but it is a classification which involves physical contact with students, right? This person will be physically touching people. And so
Correct.
maybe the bloodborne pathogens or disease would be appropriate. I don't know. This is not an area where I'm an expert, but I was wondering.
Now that you bring it up, I think it's definitely important to include that.
Okay. That was it for me.
So I have, I guess, a technical question that maybe Sam and possibly Paula can help with, and that's the fact that this position, and I know it's also true of the educational occupational therapist position, because I took a look at that. Both of those positions are listed as being exempt. And I'm a little, not troubled necessarily, but concerned about, reading Aaron's write-up of this position and reading most of the job duties. It sounds like it's a physical therapist position. It's an important physical therapist position, a person who will do assessments and things of that nature. But is it an exempt position? And I sort of look first and foremost probably to Sam, because I think she's probably the expert, and then see what Local 21 thinks about that question.
So exempt status is mostly based on how much you make. And so their salaries definitely qualify them as exempt, but they also fall under the professional category where they're required to have a higher level of education, basically a doctorate of a type, to do this position, which then also makes them exempt.
Could you give us, if you don't know off the top of your head, no worries. What is the salary threshold for exempt?
It used to be, I think, around 125, but I will look it up right now. It keeps going up and down, mattering on the administration.
Gotcha.
But I will look it up for you.
State. Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question?
No, because it's my understanding that salary is one component. In other words, you have to be earning a minimum salary to be considered exempt. But in addition, you have to be doing management, supervisory, administrative functions to be exempt. You can be a professional who's basically working, 9 to 5, and you have specific functions that you do, and basically you come into the office, you do those functions, you get highly paid, but you're not exempt. So I guess my question is does this position have sufficient management, executive, administrative, supervisory, and discretionary, yes, that's a component too, aspects to it to be considered exempt? And I guess, if we're not sure, maybe we need to get a legal opinion on that, because, I don't want to consider something exempt if it's not exempt. So that's my feeling.
Paula, were you looking to give comment? Yeah, okay, you got your hand up. Go ahead. Well, let's unmute Paula.
Sam has her hand up also.
Okay.
Paula, and then we'll go to Sam.
So these positions are of a professional nature, and that's why they're exempt. We have other professional positions. The OTs are exempt because, you have the salary threshold, but these positions fall under the professional exemption category. And that's why they're exempt, because they hold a specialty credentials in a specialty field, like a lawyer or a doctor, people with specialized skills. So that's why they're in the exempt status. And Local 21 does represent other OTs in other districts.
And they are exempt.
Yes.
Sam.
And just to be clear, like all Local 21 positions are exempt.
Well,
in
but
our
that's chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
If this shouldn't be non-exempt, it wouldn't be in Local 21. It shouldn't be exempt because it's in Local 21.
Right.
So in California, it is 125,000 is the current hiring, and you have to be doing at least 50% of your duties as of a administrative level. But there is an exception in California called the professional exception, or the white collar exception, for lack of a better phrase. I hate that phrase. Which says that your primary duties require advanced knowledge in a field of science or learning customarily acquired by a prolonged course of specialized instruction, just like Paula said, including lawyers, doctors, accountants, and teachers.
That answers the question for me. I don't know if that answers the question for you.
That's what's in California law.
Yeah.
And they're required to have a doctorate.
I'm sorry, say that again?
And this position is required to have a doctorate
Doctorate.
in physical therapy.
And so how, because I'm looking at Education Code Section 45-130, which talks about basically classified exempt positions. And it says certain positions or classes of positions as supervisory, administrative, or executive, and exclude the employees serving in such positions and the positions from the overtime provisions. And it goes on to talk about their salaries, their benefits, their flexibility of hours, their duties, their authority, and things like that. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time harmonizing what you're saying.
Yeah, it's labor law is what I'm reading from, California labor law.
Right. Right. And where does the education code fit into that analysis?
Does it supersede or is it superseded by?
I don't know.
Right.
Well, my, again, I guess what I would like to do, if we're ready to make a motion and to approve this, is to approve it subject to a written legal counsel opinion that this position is in fact exempt.
Let me just ask, would that delay recruitment and hiring for this position? That's for Aaron and Sam.
Well, I mean, the plan was to start recruiting right away once the commission approved.
I think I disagree slightly, which is I would lean towards approving it today, but I do think that it's worthwhile, especially because there's consonance between the district, the union, and past practice, right? So all three are kind of aligned in terms of the status of this role as exempt. But I do think that there's an interesting question about if there's a difference between what the general labor law says and what the Ed Code says. And so I would request us, if we can get a legal opinion about that for a future meeting, but I don't want to slow down this for that, would be my preference. And then we'll come back to you.
Well, I guess my, one question on that, on slowing down, because I thought of that too, and I don't want to slow down the recruitment, but wouldn't it still be possible, since we're going to be approving every aspect of this job description and the salary and everything about it, with the exception, it's not minor, but the exception of whether it's exempt or not exempt, and I'm hopeful that our legal counsel will say it's exempt, and we can just go on from there. It strikes me as, couldn't this be by the end of this week we should be able to have an opinion on it, but
Let's go to Commissioner Goldstein and then
If I may,
Yeah.
yeah. So having a lot of direct experience with this, I think what we would be wise to, base our decision on is if someone brings a wage and hour claim to the state DLSE, right? It's where is the consequence, right? I'm sure there are parts of the law that conflict because there often are, right? Right. But the Department of Labor Standards is sort of where the rubber meets the road. And what we don't want is to set ourselves up for a wage and hour claim for a new position. My guess is the contractors were paid hourly to do this work, and as a matter of, precedent, we should look at that. I'm sure also this work has components of administrative and discretionary, so this looks like one of those positions where, it could kind of go either way. And if no one goes to the regulator, it doesn't matter. It's not a problem. If someone does go to the regulator, it is a problem. So I think it is worthwhile. I think I agree with Commissioner Roeder on this, that we take it, pretty quick, to council and say, tell us what you think. Is it defensible if someone brings a wage and hour claim? And we'll get an opinion. And then based on that opinion, it becomes a component of risk, because what we don't want to do is tell HR what to do. They probably know this is an on the line position anyway, but we ought to go in informed, that we think, it could go either way, and we're going on this side of the line, and it's an intentional decision.
And let me just echo that, and I know Paula has her hand up, and I do want to hear what she says, but off of what you're saying, I think if we do request an opinion from legal counsel, it should be pointed out, and it's right here in the job description, that the individual does supervise employees, apparently. That's what I read. And the employee does provide expertise to others, cabinet members, others in high positions in the district, and undoubtedly has a fair amount, and maybe even a great deal, of discretionary authority. To my reading, those elements, and possibly others, as well as having a doctorate and things like that, lean toward being exempt. It's just the way it was described, I'm just not sure of that.
Paula, let's go to Paula and then back to Aaron, and then let's see if we can land on a motion.
So Berkeley classifies its professionals as exempt, and most other districts classifies its professionals as exempt. It has nothing to do with, I'm not going to say that it has nothing to do with their hours, but it has nothing to do with whether they supervise staff. I was a classified management person as a coordinator. I was not assigned anyone to supervise. The OTs have been exempt professionals within Local 21 since they were created. Our district and other districts classify OTs and physical therapists as professionals because they fall under the professional status for the labor code, as well as the requirements under the Ed Code 45130. So, and that's why they meet the professional exemption status under the labor code. And so I don't see any reason for delay, and I know Samantha will agree with me, because historically we have classified OTs and now we're creating a PT position, and they should all be classified within the same professional exemption status for that very reason, not because they do or don't supervise people, but because of their professional exemption under the labor code.
I do agree. I know I didn't get called on, but I do agree with Paula completely. And I also want to confirm that in my experience in other districts, as well as my prior district, positions such as OT, PT, audiologist, there's a couple of other ones that require these very professional degrees in order to do it, that are always considered exempt positions because of the level of the degree that they have to have and the specialization that they have to get these positions. I mean, this is like in other states, their PTs are allowed to just have a master's. In California, they have to have a doctorate. Mm-hmm. To me, it's not a question at all. There's no if or on the line at all. It's these positions are exempt. But I respect your decisions and your hesitancy, but I don't have any question in my mind at all.
Go ahead, and then
I will
move to
also kind of piggyback on those two opinions about it being exempt status, and I will say that when I was looking for salary information for this position in other districts, they were exempt as well. And so when I was looking up other job descriptions, they were all exempt positions. So I suggest that we approve it and that I go ahead and get a legal opinion while we're recruiting.
That would be my preference as well, but the votes will land where they may.
I will defer to the wisdom of both Paula and the greater experience of both Paula and Samantha on this subject. So I would say that my reservations are at this point alleviated.
A humble attorney, look at that. So that being said, and thank you for raising it, I think it's an important issue, and not at all a simple one. So it's good we talk about it. And regardless, it'd be nice to get that legal opinion about that status. We can be informed for future discussions. One other technical question on the requirements. We had discussed the issue of the driver's license. However, I'm reading under the working conditions section that driving a vehicle to conduct work is a requirement. And so my question was, is this a situation where they're transporting equipment like I don't know if a massage table, but like some kind of table, if they're expected to transport equipment they can't carry, then a driver's license would be appropriate?
Actually, no. What I would say to that, and once upon a time, I guess before we were in the era of Lyft and Uber and different kinds of transportation services, maybe that was the case. But at this point, what it more becomes an issue of is, if you are using your own vehicle, you're getting reimbursed by the employer for, some amount of mileage, right? If you're using a Lyft or an Uber, it may be a different expense, and, the employer would still need to bear that expense. And, some of the bickering back and forth has been, that's more expense than reimbursing somebody for using their personal vehicle wear and tear. So I think, by saying you need the ability to travel, there's a subsidiary question that is not within our purview about, well, how do you travel and what are you reimbursed for and how does that all work? That's not our problem. That's a district policy aspect. It's just flagging you will need to travel. And what I noted, I think it was this one that said, you're going to need to pick up 50 pounds, sometimes more, right? This was that position. So who knows,
Right. I mean, I guess, so, and this was something that the state law changed within the past recent period. And just, this is my Google summary. It's that we're not allowed to ask for a driver's license unless the employer reasonably anticipates driving to be an essential job duty, right? And so I guess I would turn to Sam and ask, do you know if this was just kind of left in because, or was it specifically considered that driving was a part of the job duties, or what would the district feel about eliminating driving a vehicle to conduct work from the working conditions and the driver's license from the required licenses?
The unmuting thing sucks. Sorry. I would say that it was probably put in there with the idea of moving equipment, but I do agree with Heidi. Sorry, your name is escaping it's at the end of the day. I do agree with Heidi that there is options nowadays for that. And so I think if we were to say that to assist with equipment transportation or something to that effect in there instead of drive a vehicle, I think that would be legitimate. I don't know how much equipment that they're going to have to move around or what that equipment would look like, because right now our current PTs bring their own. It's not our equipment. So, there's already going to be added expenses in terms of that anyway. And I don't know if Paula, if you have any input from like OTs about how much equipment they have to bring and whether or not that's an issue for them. But I know that PTs do use equipment at times with students that can be the size that you would need a vehicle for.
Go ahead,
And
Paula,
that
if
is
you
in
wanted
the,
to.
sorry, just to add that's mentioned in the physical demands as well. So heavy lifting to transfer students and move heavy mobility equipment.
Gotcha. Paula, did you want to chime in?
So the need to be able to move around is based on them having to drive to other sites. So to have someone call an Uber is not really practical during a school day for them to get from site to site. To require someone to be able to have the ability to drive makes more sense to me. I don't know anything about the laws changing. I haven't had the opportunity to research, but the union had no issue with the district saying must have a California driver's license, because they have to get around from site to site. The OTs, they travel from site to site. They travel from their office location to the school sites in some cases. So there is a need. And as far as the requirement to have a car to carry the equipment, the OTs and the PTs, they all have to carry their physical, their tools for their trade. So I guess I just want to say the union has no problem with requiring them to have a valid California driver's license. We reviewed the job description and didn't see any issues with it as it's written.
I'd change it.
Any thoughts?
Well, I am familiar with, we had a discussion about it, about the change in the California law, which is relevant. And I sort of think that I agree with Heidi that we did develop some language to comply with the new California statute. Using that language seems, perfectly appropriate to me.
I guess I think I would agree in the sense that better to be more permissive and then the district can interpret, right? So if the standard is, the language from the other section is ability to travel between multiple sites on a daily basis, and we could incorporate an ability to travel and transport equipment between multiple sites on a daily basis. If, one way to accomplish that is driving your own personal vehicle. If the district identifies other methods to accomplish that, then great. If they decide that something isn't a method, then that's not a method, right? So, if someone says, oh, well, I could call an Uber or Lyft, and the district says, well, these are the problems with that, and they can present those issues, then that wouldn't be included if that doesn't meet the definition, would be my feeling.
I think it's a good general description. I think probably most people who do PT or OT, probably have their own vehicle. They probably carry their own stuff. The case that I consider, more people than we know get DUIs.
That's true.
Right? And when that happens, then what happens? Right? They're using Uber or Lyft. So let's save ourselves the problem.
So I think the change would be in the section we'd be striking valid California driver's license from the licenses and other requirements. And under working conditions, instead of driving a vehicle to conduct work, it would be ability to travel between multiple sites and ability to travel and transport equipment between multiple sites on a daily basis.
And transport equipment.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, we're incorporating the hazards, as we previously discussed. Are there any other changes or questions on this item? All right, is there a motion?
I get to make the motion, yes. So I motion with the changes that you've just described with respect to transporting stuff and getting across sites, and some of the hazards that we approve the educational physical therapist new classification.
Mike?
I agree in second.
I concur, and I thank you to Paula and to Sam and our staff for the significant discussion on this seemingly simple item. All right.
May I make one comment?
You absolutely may.
And that is based upon the analysis that Samantha and Paula and Aaron gave us, and
yes.
The fact that every other district in California with these classifications considers them exempt. I don't have to be convinced of it, and therefore I never feel that just asking legal counsel for legal opinions for no particular reason is a very good idea. So, and we don't need to go through the expense of obtaining that. So at least in my opinion, I think we just leave it the way it is.
Well, I mean, per our previous discussion about legal counsel, we should be asking the district's legal counsel.
Correct.
And so I actually still would like to see, whether it's a legal opinion formally or just a non-sensitive explanation for us around the way that Ed Code and Labor Code interact on the issue of exempt versus non-exempt. That'd be great to have, if not for next meeting, the meeting after. Either way.
Well, I guess I would suggest, if we're up to me, I wouldn't ask at all. But if you want to ask, then I would just suggest that Aaron contact Mr. Combs and informally just chit chat about this concept.
That sounds fine to me. All right. That brings us. That was item C.
Oh,
so we were now.
Would it be possible to take?
Yes.
3 to 4 minutes?
Call it 5. Let's be generous. We will recess and resume again at 6:20. There we go. All right. I think we're ready now. Let us turn to item 8D, approval of new classification program lead extended learning. I'll turn it over to Erin.
So this next item is for approval of a new program lead expanded learning classification to support the district's expanded learning program through program oversight, compliance monitoring, staff supervision, and quality assurance across multiple school sites. The class was developed collaboratively by HR, the Expanded Learning Department, and reviewed by Local 21 as well. The Board of Education approved the job duties on June 3rd, and the PC is now being asked to approve the class spec, the minimum qualifications, and salary placement. The salary placement was developed through a review of comparable internal management classifications and external market comparisons, even though that was very challenging as there were no exact same positions out there in other districts. So I'm recommending approval of the classification and the salary placement as presented.
Let's start with questions from my fellow commissioners. Any questions from, go ahead, Commissioner Goldstein.
I actually did not have a lot in the way of questions on this, and again, let me just double check, make sure nothing has changed here. We use ability to travel between sites. In terms of hazards or physical demands, this looked like it made sense to me, right? I really don't have questions about this one.
Well, I have a question on the sort of education and experience requirements. And again, probably turn to Erin and Samantha on this because it's sort of a recruitment question. And that is, as I read these, so you need to have a bachelor's degree in these various subjects or related fields. That seems fine. You need 3 years of progressively responsible experience in program compliance, monitoring, auditing, or program administration. I mean, that's fine, but it's a lot. Experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required. I guess I'm not 100% sure what a publicly funded program is. But then in addition, you need 2 years of supervisory experience in the public sector, including responsibility for supervising employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement. So the person who would qualify for this is going to be at a very advanced level of education and experience, especially experience, and very kind of limited experience. So one question is this ever intended to be a promotional opportunity where it's conceivable that someone working in the district in expanded learning for a long time and familiar with a lot of these subjects, possibly needing a little bit of training, maybe more than a little bit of training, but has never had supervisory experience. It doesn't sound like this is going to be or intended to be a promotional opportunity. So that's one question. And the other is just one of recruitment. Are we going to find people who can fulfill all these requirements?
Very good questions.
I'll let Sam respond, and if she doesn't catch something, I'll add to it too.
All right. This is intended to be a promotional opportunity. The intended people who could promote are the people who were coordinators, who are now going to be specialists, and also specialists in the future, who have been able to get opportunities to demonstrate these skills through being a specialist. And the goal is to build on the people that we already have internally and build their capacity to take on these roles, with a narrowed focus from what the coordinators were doing, and a sort of a higher level, wider view of the program. And so it's not quite to the same level as Brazil's position, which is more of a state level position, but it is up there pretty high up in understanding and ability to help work on this program, and this support this program. The publicly funded could be other Head Start programs, other ACES programs that may not be through a school district, maybe through an outside public or private provider. Those do exist elsewhere in the districts other than ours, as well as experience with a preschool setting or other settings like that, where they could get that kind of information. In terms of recruitment, we do believe that we have qualified applicants who are open for a promotional opportunity currently within our district. I also believe that there are people out there in other districts who would qualify.
And then also, to add to what Sam said, is the restructuring that is taking place in the expanded learning program is basically now due to the fact that they removed those site coordinators positions. They are creating 3 of these positions, the expanded learning program leads. And so three essentially supervisors will be overseeing 4 sites each. So now the focus will be really on program oversight and supervision, because they will be supervising staff at 4 sites, each program lead.
So I guess my question, it sort of has to do with promotional opportunities. So my question is, I can totally understand how the former coordinators would potentially fulfill all of these requirements. I can see that. But looking into the future, if a vacancy comes up, if there's a specialist in a position and that specialist, well, I guess this is a question. Would the specialist who isn't a former coordinator, would the specialist qualify for 2 years of supervisory experience in the public sector, including responsibility for supervising employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement? Would such a specialist have the promotional opportunity to promote into being a lead? Because I'm not sure that specialist would have supervised employees subject to a collective bargaining agreement, or would they?
Well, I mean, it'll depend a lot on the individual specialist. They do absolutely have to have, as it's written, have that supervisory experience where they're responsible for evaluating an employee and, potentially discipline, because it's such a big component of the new position. But certain specialists have worked out of class. Certain specialists have been in other roles in other districts where they have supervised. So, yeah.
Well, I
Something to
guess
consider.
my question, I'm not advocating it necessarily, is do we want to sort of add the words to that one sentence at the end, is desirable or something like that, so that when we're screening, especially for promotional opportunities, that we're not screening out, because as I understand it, a specialist is not permitted to supervise and evaluate another BCCE employee. That would be improper, as I understand it. So anyway.
I totally agree. I mean, I think ideally, there would be a scenario where if you came in to be in the district as a specialist, did that job exclusively for 10 years, there's a vacancy in your supervisor, you should be eligible based on the experience you have in the district to go for that role. Doesn't mean you'll be accepted, doesn't mean you're gonna be the best applicant, but you should be qualified to apply for the role, right?
I guess that is the question, right? Being in a union is different than supervising people who are in the union that you used to be in, right? The skills of a supervisor are different than the skills of, a lead versus a manager, versus somebody who has only worked in a staff role. And generally, what I think is missing from here, I understand the desire to make this, a job family position, that you can work your way up through. And in order to do that, generally there's a training component that talks about, here's what you learn when you're a lead, here's what you learn when you're a manager, here are some of the differences. And it's not really clear to me if we have that or not. And if we don't have it, it's not fair to set this up as a job family thing, because it isn't.
I'm going to go to Paula, and then let's go, if Sam has, I have a question for Sam after we talk to Paula.
Okay, so I just want to make a note that the job requirements for the program lead far exceed those of the program supervisor. And so the program supervisor is only required to have a bachelor's degree in child development, education, or a related field, and 2 years of increasingly responsible experience in participating or leading after-school programs. This job the requirements far exceed those duties. So we tried to distinguish when we met with the district to create the job description. We came to a medium with the job duties, but I'm just now taking a closer look at the at the experience required at the MQs, and these far exceed those of their supervisors. So these need to be dialed back a lot.
Well, that's beyond what we were talking about before. So let's talk to Sam. How both.
But we're talking about the job description. So how does that exceed how is that not related? The MQs, how is that not related?
I'm not saying it's not related. I'm saying your point is well taken. It's just beyond what we had been discussing, but that is something we should discuss. So we will come back to it. But I want to turn to Sam, both for what Paula is saying and also what we were talking about. The more kind of minor change would be just adding on is desired or is highly desirable. But then beyond that would be more significantly looking at the. Is Sam unmuted?
I'm here, yes. I'm trying to understand the question. Can you repeat it for me?
If you could respond both to what Paula is saying in terms of the education and experience requirements and also to what the commissioners were talking about in terms of whether the supervisory experience could be reduced to a desirable rather than a required.
Yeah, I had also not looked at this compared to the supervisor. And so I agree that there may be room to adjust this. I am not opposed to making things desired rather than required. And I think the one thing that I would say is I think that it's important to have, and I would say that now that I've looked at what the supervisor requires, that I want to have a conversation with the union about that. But I think that I would say we could add the as desired to the supervisory experience. And then in terms of the 3 years of experience, I think we could make it one level of experience in a school district expanded learning or program or publicly funded program that is progressively responsible. So like that you're growing in terms of what you're responsible for within that those 3 years. I don't know how Paula feels about that, or I haven't really discussed this specifically with anybody.
So just in terms of procedure here. I don't want to, our next meeting of the PC is not next month, it's the month after because of the break.
Maybe we need a special meeting.
So, a good point. Commissioner Roeder has whispered to me that maybe we need a special meeting. I don't want to, there's two things. I don't want to slow down the hiring of these positions. However, I also think we want to get this right. So, go ahead, Director.
Well, I didn't also look at the after-school program supervisor when we compared the minimum or worked on the minimum qualifications. And Paula is right that the program supervisor who supervises this position does have less minimum qualifications.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Which does not make sense. Again, that position was established many years ago before, this program has developed in the way that it has, or before even the site coordinators positions were created. But if we want to, if it seems like Local 21 and the district are willing to take, we could look at making it highly desirable or desirable if that's something that they want, or changing it. I just wouldn't want to delay.
If we were to schedule a special meeting for 2 weeks from now, would that be? Okay.
You guys.
I may not be here to.
I think we can move forward tonight if we all come to an agreement.
Okay. Okay. As long as, if everyone's comfortable, certainly, I hate doing things, drafting things in the dais is always a little bit squirrely. But.
Right. What are we proposing is highly desirable here?
So I think, go ahead, Sam.
I wouldn't even
so
include the highly desirable.
Yeah, the 2 years of supervisory experience, I think, would be highly desirable. And then which is the last sentence there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other change that I would make is the 3 years of progressively responsible experience. And I would take out the in-program compliance, monitoring, auditing, or program administration and change that to in a school district expanded learning program or other publicly funded program.
So let me just add, before you consider taking that in program compliance and monitoring, the whole purpose of this position is program compliance and monitoring the school sites to make sure that they're in compliance with the ACES grants. So
can I make a suggestion? So what if it read this way? Any combination equivalent to a bachelor's degree in public administration, education, business administration, or a closely related field, and 3 years of progressively responsible experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required. 2 years of supervisory experience in the public sector, including responsibility for supervising employees covered by collective bargaining agreements, is strongly desired. Experience in program compliance, monitoring, auditing, or program administration is desired. Is that, Brian's making a face.
So I think what I would say is, and I don't know if this is why Brian's making his face, but the minimum qualifications are just that, the minimum qualifications. And we do want them to be significant to represent what these positions need to be. But I think that the process that the Personnel Commission goes through in terms of the assessments that are given to these applicants can help us to determine whether or not they would meet the essential duties and the knowledge, skills, and abilities piece that would also have those pieces in it. So I'm not sure that we need to have it both in the minimum qualifications as well. But if we do feel strongly that we need to have it in there, then I would say the as desired or is desired, the way that you said it, would be what I would recommend.
I also don't think we need to make a distinction between highly desired and desired, because I think they're both
Same.
desired. Yeah.
So then I'll turn to staff and fellow commissioners. I think we have a consensus around the 2 years of supervisory experience being highly desired, and that we're going to have the 3 years be years of progressively responsible experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required. Do we feel the need to add the language around, or to retain language in the minimums around program compliance, monitoring, auditing, and program administration?
Well, Paula didn't get to finish her sentence, but the part I heard is that, a key aspect of this role is doing that. So it would seem to me, Paula, maybe you want to finish your sentence, but it would seem to me that we want someone with that experience, that is at least desirable, right?
Yeah, I exactly said. Thank you, Heidi. That was my point.
Staff, do you have a recommendation on how to incorporate that?
So we are going to say then that we're going to keep everything as is, except the supervisory experience and the program compliance monitoring auditing are both highly desired or desired.
So,
And then, but experience in school district, expanded learning program, or other funded program is required.
just for my comfort, can you help read us what it would read as?
Okay. So a bachelor's degree in public administration, education, business administration, or a closely related field. And then we're going to jump to, in a closely related field, experience in.
Is that a period after field?
One thing going on.
Yeah, your point. So while we're jumping, it's important to put the periods where the periods need to be, and because if you're saying the first part or are you omitting that?
No,
Okay.
I think.
Or a closely related experience.
Let us cook too many cooks. So let's let her go back to it.
Okay, so a bachelor's degree, et cetera, in a closely related field, period. And then experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required.
Okay.
And then 3 years of progressively responsible experience in program compliance, monitoring, auditing, or program administration, and 2 years of supervisory experience in the public sector, including responsibility supervising employees covered by a collective bargaining agreement is highly desired.
Okay.
Sam and Paula. I hear a yes from Paula. Sam, are we good with that?
I just want to make sure that Paula does agree.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
I agree with Aaron about taking out the highly.
Yeah.
All right. Do we feel comfortable?
Yes, I'm comfortable with the language, but I do have
Other things.
no, not really
Okay.
other things. Just a question going back to, well, what everybody has said, Paula, Sam, and Aaron, about the supervisor
Yeah.
position. Is the intention not for the incumbent, we're not going to change anything for the incumbent, but that going forward, would we be bringing the supervisor's position to
reassessment.
the board, to the commission, to put that in conformity, more or less, with what we've done here, because I agree with what everybody has said. Doesn't make a lot of sense for the supervisor position to have less minimum requirements than the.
I concur totally.
Is Paula, is that what you're thinking too?
Yeah, I mean, that was my initial statement, because you've got highly desired, you were saying highly desired and desired, but yet those requirements aren't in the supervisor's position.
Right.
Okay.
So I think there's an interest in doing this expeditiously, get us to be able to hire for these positions.
Yeah.
Once we have these in place, I think my request would be for staff to come back with an analysis of all three positions at a future meeting to make sure that the qualifications are related and appropriate, and that there is an appropriate ability to promote from one to the other. And
So can you state which three positions you're talking about, just so we're all clear?
So I believe he's referring to after-school program specialist, expanded learning program lead, and after-school program supervisor.
exactly.
So let me just add to this. It was our understanding that there would be a possibility that we also wanted to make room for the coordinators who were demoted to be able to apply for this position or whatever as an effect of the layoff. But with the way this is written, that kind of knocks a lot of them out of the, well, depending on who screens the applications, they could be knocked out.
That certainly wasn't the intention. Aaron, can
No,
you speak to that?
no, the intention was that it would allow them.
Yeah, our reading of these requirements includes everyone who was in that role previously.
So Paula, if you wanted to, you and I can chat and do an MOU or side letter about that if you wanted to.
Okay. Okay.
To state that as one of the impacts that we're negotiating of the layoff would be that they do have the opportunity to apply and are considered to meet the minimum requirements.
Right.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
All right, thank you, Sam. That all being said, with the new language we have here, do we have any additional questions or comments on the draft?
I don't.
Is there a motion?
You mean the rest of the? You mean the rest of the minimum clause, or?
No, the draft job description.
Can I ask you to please, Aaron, read the minimum clause one more time?
By the end, we'll all have memorized it.
All right, I'm sorry to make you do this.
No,
but
it is an
I'm not sure
entirely,
I've caught
entirely
everything.
appropriate request.
Yeah.
Okay, so a bachelor's degree in public administration, education, business administration, or a closely related field, period. Experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required.
Pause there.
Period.
Do we want to put in a number of years?
Probably, yes.
How many years?
I mean, 2 or 3 would seem appropriate.
I would say 2 to align with the supervisor that's above it, so not put more than what the supervisor has.
Okay.
Is that okay with Local 21 and the district?
No apologies. I saw a thumbs up from Samantha.
Okay.
And I see a nod of the head from Paula, so we'll take that
Okay.
as yes.
And so now we're the second sentence. 2 years experience in a school district, expanded learning program, or other publicly funded program is required. 3 years of progressively responsible experience in program compliance, monitoring, auditing, or program administration, and 2 years supervisory experience in the public sector, including responsibility for supervising employees covered by collective bargaining agreements is desired. And I'll separate the paragraph so that you know what's required versus what is desired.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, sounds good to me too.
All right.
Thank you for reading it again. Appreciate that.
Yeah, we caught a thing we should add. So, since you asked the question, would you like to make a motion?
Now I'm going to let someone else make this motion.
I move that the job classification description for the program lead expanded learning be approved with the changes that we were just discussing to the education and experience section.
I will second.
Okay, and I'll agree.
Wonderful, and thank you to Paula and to Sam and our staff for getting us through that. We appreciate the messy business of making sure this is all right. And we look forward to also revisiting those in the future to see that they're kind of in alignment.
Okay.
All right. Let me actually just add that to my notes. School, job, family. Okay, that will take us through D. So now E is approval of reallocation of salary range, Director of Nutrition Services. And I'll turn it to Erin.
Sure. So this item is for the approval for the Director of Nutrition Services, which is currently, or very soon will become a vacant position. District leadership requested review of the salary placement for this position to assist with recruitment efforts. And the proposal would move the classification from salary schedule 52 range 84 to range 85. So only one range up to align with the district's other classified with the other classified director level positions. So no changes are being proposed to the job duties or the minimum qualifications. And it's just, the intention is to support with recruitment and retention and to align it with the other director positions.
Any questions on this item?
No.
Nope.
And any public comment on the item? Not seeing any hands. All right, is there a motion on the item?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
And I concur. And that approval of the reallocation of the salary range. Our last item is approval of procedures for adjusting examination passing points. And this also includes our discussion of high volume recruitments, and I will turn it over to Erin.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just gonna pull up my spreadsheet. Apologize. Okay, so this item is to approve the approval process for adjusting the exam passing points above the standard 70% for open competitive candidates when necessary. So over the past year, the Personnel Commission, we've experienced a significant increase in applicant volume across many different recruitments. So in many cases, these very large candidate pools can make exams very, very time consuming and very also costly to administer, particularly when there's multiple testing components that are required. So the proposed procedure would allow passing points to be adjusted based on factors such as applicant volume, number of vacancies, and our examination resources. However, promotional candidates would continue to be evaluated using the existing 70% passing point standard. So I'm recommending the approval of these new parameters around passing points so that we can ultimately recruit more efficiently and not cause an impact to our current promotional candidates.
First, I just wanted to, and I had a little bit of a discussion with Erin about this.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 points. One is I was inquiring about whether or not we could put in some more guidelines, stricter guidelines, because I wanted to make sure it wasn't arbitrary. Mm-hmm. But I think what made me comfortable is the last of the bullet points, which is the ability to conduct oral performance or qualification appraisals within a reasonable time frame, preferably within a single examination day. Basically, so the main metric is we want to be able to interview the candidates in one day. And if we can't accomplish that, we shouldn't be changing the pass point. And if we think we need to change the pass point to accomplish that, we should. And then the other issue was, and this is, we'll have a greater discussion we can hear, and then also probably at future meetings, about what is going on with these very high volume recruitments. And my suggestion to Erin was that when we do have these high volume recruitments, we reach out to applicants with, have a form letter drafted that basically says, hey, by the way, you feel free to apply, where this is not at all to say you shouldn't apply. But you should know this is a very high volume recruitment, which means it's much more competitive, and here are some other recruitments that we think you're eligible for that you might want to consider applying for as well, so that we can try and direct some people from the high volume recruitments to some of other open recruitments, help everyone out a little bit. And so that's, was something to explore, and I look forward to hearing other folks' ideas about how we could do things like that, or whether that's a good idea or not. First, I want to turn to Frank from BCCE, and then any other public comment, and then I'll turn to the fellow commissioners.
Yeah, thanks. I really wasn't planning on speaking until I thought I needed to, but I will say that I do agree with keeping the promotions at 70. Do not raise that. That's my biggest concern. Just keeping that number at 70% for promotionals. So that's my concern.
Thank you. Other public comment on this item? All right. Commissioners, Commissioner Roeder.
Okay. Nobody's going to like this idea, but I think that this is a I agree with the idea of it, and I agree with Frank about keeping the promotional appointment rating at 70. But I think that this is a significant enough matter that it really should be in our merit rules. And I believe that what we should be doing is making an amendment to the merit rules, and they're on the examination. This would be section 40.200 of the merit rules. And there's probably a few other matters that we've been talking about in recent years while we're doing it that can also be included in a proposed amendment, because I think this is a good time to do that.
I don't disagree. That's a good point.
Sure. So I have some concerns with respect to the external, the mixing of external and internal, if we're going to handle the two populations differently. One way past merit rules have attempted to address this is to provide some number of merit points. You know, you're a veteran or you've got 2 years of service or something that gives you a few extra points, you know, based on whatever the pass point is. I worry that we are really asking for trouble from external applicants who are held to a different standard than internal applicants. And I worry how we explain to our stakeholders why we chose someone who, by dint of testing, appeared to be less qualified than somebody else on the list. You know, this presents some significant problems in both places. You know, I have considered that there are a couple dynamics here, you know, that might help us avoid some of these problems, you know, and I am not espousing one over the other right now so much as just throwing them out there. One is, you know, if we're starting to see a trend of, you know, big volume recruitments where we think a changing pass point might be necessary, does anything stop us from doing an internal only recruitment first? Just to see what we get, right? So we don't have that problem. A different question would be along the lines of what Soli talked about. I don't know if we can close a recruitment at a threshold number of applicants, you know, and if we can't, you know, then we can't. The best we can do is tell people, you know, we're going to run another round, maybe later, you know, because if we get what we need in this round, we won't run another round, you know, right away. You know, and there are problems with that as well, you know, with applicants who come back and say, hey, you know, I was discriminated against, you know, for this, that, and the other reasons. So I think we have a lot of work that we still need to do on this before we come to closure.
Well, I would say with respect to the promotional exams, I think for starters, both our rules and the education code require that we give preference to promotional exams. And what we're supposed to do, which I think that Aaron does do, is the first thing that's done is to make a determination, are there going to be enough internal candidates to satisfy a recruitment? Most of the time, the answer is no, and that's why we do a combined promotional and open exam. But if Aaron, well, first, and in addition, if I'm not mistaken, you post, don't you post the promotional opportunity for like 10 days or so first before posting it on the sort of open market, and that gives you enough time to see, are there interested promotional candidates? And if the answer is yes, there's plenty of them, then you don't do an open recruitment at all?
It's a little different. So what I do
Okay.
is that I post the transfer opportunity simultaneously with the open and promotional recruitment. So I'm posting the 10-day transfer period at the same time that we're also recruiting for open and promotional candidates. The transfer opportunity is only for employees that are already in that classification and are just looking to transfer sites. So, but we are recruiting open and promotionals at the same time. A big reason we do this is because we do not get very often enough promotional candidates to give us 3 ranks. And so then if we do an promotional only recruitment, then, and we don't get the 3 ranks, then we have lost a lot of time in getting a full list. And often managers push back when we send 2 ranks because they want 3 ranks. So that's why we've done them simultaneously. But in this case, yeah, you're right in that I do treat when we do have the promotional candidates and they've passed the exams, they get pushed up to the top. So they're always going to take, priority in ranks. And so that already happens. And so essentially the list is already getting split in 2. And it's almost like the recruitment's getting split in 2 because I'm generating 2 different lists in a way, one that's promotional and one that's open. And so that's why I felt like I did think about the issues that Heidi brought up. And I feel like this would be a good way to kind of navigate this issue here because we're getting pressure from hiring managers to move forward on the recruitments. But we just saw with the minimum qualifications, now we made something highly desirable. So we're going to screen in more people now. We're going to get more candidates. And so then we're going to have a lot of more tests to administer. And with these recruitments here that we're doing, we're just finding it very, very challenging to schedule, those subsequent exams, not only because we need raters to score first exams, but we also need panelists for oral exams, performance exams. So you can see here in the data, spreadsheet I provided, we aren't really entirely sure, but it seems like a lot of these positions are clerical. Most of them are clerical, and I don't know if there's an algorithm thing in NeoGov or why so many, or it could be an AI component that applicants are using now to, auto-populate applications. It becomes much easier. But if we also just look at how many people are taking the written exam, that number has increased too. So it leads us to think that, there is more interest. And it could be due to factors outside and private, companies and layoffs. And so we're a bit more desirable as an employer these days. But I don't expect us necessarily to come to a decision today. I did want to bring this up because I did discuss it with BCCE, and we just felt that we also have to keep recruiting. We have to be efficient, and this might be the best way that we can approach these really high volume recruitments, which they're not as common. These are the recruitments that we've seen in the last year.
Hey, can I ask, just in your chart, just so I understand it, written exam, oral exam, and then EL is?
That's eligibility list.
Eligibility list, thank you.
How many
Okay.
got on the list.
Thank you.
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, Heidi brought up some great points, and I don't really have any answers to her questions. But my understanding, I brought this up a few years ago when Charlie was the director, and the reason behind, or what I brought up was that I felt that per the merit rules that these are 2 different recruitments, meaning that promotional and open eligibility lists, they're 2 different recruitments. They're not the same recruitments. At least that's my understanding. And the issue I had was at that time, they were taking what we thought BCCE, 70 was the threshold. They were raising it. And when they raised it, we had 3 people on the promotional list, but when they raised it, they chopped 2 of them off. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you? Well, and the reason was because we had too many people who made it. And it's like, yeah, but you cut off 2 of the 3. You might have cut off 10 of the open and cut that list down, but you cut off 2 of the 3. So that's why I'm coming back here again to say I support this, because we want to keep our promotionals, let them make the list. And again, my thought is, by reading, I haven't read it lately, but when I read it before, my thought was these are 2 different recruitments. Promotional is one recruitment and open is another. So you could run them, differently. And so my thought was you could give parameters for this, give parameters for that, or you could just run promotional, however you want to do it. But that's my thought, and I do support that. I think we should be trying to get more promotional, or at least give them the opportunity to get promoted. That's my thoughts. Thanks.
Can I try a hypothetical, just to understand how this would work? The merit rules say that we're supposed to present 3 ranks.
I'm sure we're supposed to.
The merit rules say we're supposed to present 3 ranks, right? So there are times, even when we do open and promotional, where we don't get 3 ranks, and we provide a list anyway, because it's what we got. So what I am wondering is if we split it in 2 parts, and, we would have to make really clear internally to hiring managers, what this was. We do a promotional only, let's say, and we don't get 3 ranks. We get 2 people who make the 70 score. And we present that eligibility list and say, this is what we got when we did the internal only, there are 2 ranks. And the managers are either going to say, okay, I'm happy with these ranks, there's someone here that I'm happy to hire, or they're going to give it back to you and say, no, I want 3 ranks, which would trigger a different process. And the different process would be, an external recruitment, and I think probably a flag, for any recruitment where you change the cut score, and it's not that you have to say promotionals were only 70 and, this external was something higher. But, particularly if you get a big long list with I've seen us have lists with 35 people on it, where, it might be helpful for the hiring manager to understand, we ran this other recruitment, we had a big take, and, for that reason, we changed the cut score. Just so they're aware. I'm just trying to think how we, thread this needle, to be fair and consistent with what some of our other processes have been. Because there have been times where we've shown eligibility lists with only 1 or 2 candidates because it was a difficult recruitment, right? I don't know. What do people think of that?
Well, my objection to that idea is that it puts in yet another step into the process, and then will ultimately delay things even more, and I think potentially cause maybe objections or being disgruntled by promotional candidates. So if we have only 2 promotional candidates, we supply those 2 names to the hiring manager. The hiring manager says, no, I don't want to hire any of them. Go out and have an open recruitment. Then you have potentially more disgruntled employees, justifiably so, as opposed to you run the promotional and open together. Maybe you have 5 employees on the eligibility list, but you provide, and correct me if I'm wrong, you provide the 2 promotional candidates to the hiring manager and the top open candidate, so that there's 3 ranks.
No, so what happens...
That's not how it's done?
So what happens is that
confused.
if I run a recruitment, both open and promotional, and we get 10 people that pass both exams, so we rank them, but we rank the promotionals separately. So regardless of what they scored, if they pass, they go up to the promotional list and they're ranked separately from the external candidates. So if we get 5 promotional candidates and then 5 external, I'm only going to send the top 3 ranks of the promotional candidates.
Right, but I'm asking, what if you only get 2 promotional?
If I only get 2,
and
then I'll
5?
send 2 promotional candidates and 1 rank from the external.
That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, sorry,
No,
I
think it's
understood that
different,
differently.
Because you were saying you would send 2 and then the top 3.
No, well, if I said that, I misspoke. I meant 2
Yes.
and then the top 1. So that you
The
have 3
difference
ranks.
here is, right now, the way Aaron does it, is everyone's got the same cut score.
Yes.
The preferential treatment is the promotionals are shown separately, and they're ranked within their own little system, you know, and then the opens are shown below. So there's sort of a don't ask, don't tell here. You know, we're not ranking 100% by your absolute score, promotional and open together, okay? We're
Right.
breaking them into 2 parts, and so far, that seems to have worked pretty well. Okay, in an environment where you are using different cut scores, I think your manager needs to know that.
Oh, that's fine.
And, you know, I'm struggling with how we do that. If you are showing in your example 2 promotionals who passed at the 70% rate and the 1 open who passed at, you know, I'm making this up, 90% rate, I think you need to be clear that that's what you're showing.
I have to look into
But-
that. I'm not sure
But
you can even
managers
do that.
already know that the top 2 promotional could potentially have scored
Different,
lower than the external. They already know that.
I want to, keeping in
Right,
mind the
but what
time.
they don't know is that we're using 2 different scoring approaches for the 2 different populations. I don't know, Brian has a comment.
I'm sorry. The candidate that would appear on the eligibility list would have been the highest scoring candidate.
Anyway.
So what we're talking about is making it logistically feasible to run the correct examination instruments to most accurately determine who qualifies and who's the best fit for the position by eliminating the 25, 30, 35 people who are likely never to see the inside of the interview room. We're testing all these people, and we have, say, 1 position, we've got 60 people. We had a recruitment where there were 51 candidates that entered the second phase of assessment. It does not make sense, in my opinion, to test 51 people for 1 position. It just doesn't make sense. So if you had 2 promotionals and 1 external candidate, the 1 external candidate would have been the very, very top of the list, and not any of the people that were.
It's not going to make me material. I mean, to kind of elucidate that point more, we're talking about 2 different phases, right? We're raising the cut score for who is going into the second phase of the interview process. And then the rankings are not based on the cut score, right? And so I think it's a little bit of a non sequitur.
No, hold on, the rankings are based on the cut score.
So
You
we-
have
we
2
do the
different
first
exams,
test. We do the first test.
right?
The results of that test, whether they pass, they either do or do not pass the cut score, right? That's a binary question. Then they come into the second exam. The results of that second exam determine their placement on the list.
Right,
So
and then,
that's all true. My point was that if you are testing, you're giving the same test to 2 different populations, and you are holding them to 2 different passing rates,
Sure.
I think you've got I think you have a problem.
I don't think it's
I
any
don't think
different.
so.
Yeah, I don't think it's any different than the
Really?
preferences we already give.
we're already
promotional.
showing that preferential treatment to
Yeah.
our promotional candidates by allowing them to rank up higher. Like, they could have scored, an average of 72.
There's a
And-
minimum understood pass, and there's a placement preference. I understand that. And, we sort of finesse, what was your exact score? Okay, I get that. And my concern here is an external applicant who applies and says, hold on, you gave me the same test you gave an internal person, and you gave them a 70% pass rate, but you gave me a 90% pass rate, so I didn't show up on the list.
Well,
I think we have a liability.
An opportunity to do a second interview, right? It's a different question.
They're just going to say that they didn't get the opportunity
They didn't get to progress. Their point is, you held me to a different standard.
Right, and the reason is because you're an external candidate.
Right, and I don't, yeah.
Does that really stand?
Well, I don't think it's any different than saying, hold on, I scored, there are 10 people, let's say 20 people passed, even we do 90, right? 20 people pass the first step, proceed to the rankings. Are 20 people, some of them got 100, 99, 98, 97, 96. We had 2 internals, and they got an 85 and an 82, right? The list that's going to be presented to the hiring manager, is 85, 82, 100. Right?
No, the list that's going to be presented is person 1, person 2, person 3.
Well, it doesn't, sure, but it's the same thing.
The manager doesn't know scores. The manager knows someone who passed a minimum threshold.
But to your point, it's the same complaint, right? The person who scored a 90 but didn't get presented to the hiring manager has the same complaint as the person who had a different cut score and didn't get advanced.
No, they have a different complaint. And if we can check this with counsel, I mean, if there's not a liability here, I'm all for it. I'm worried that there's an exposure here. I've been in this circumstance where applicants have sued because they felt they've been discriminated against in the process.
If we currently have a system where our cut score for everybody is 70, let's say, and we have 3 promotional candidates who all score 70, they go to the oral interview, they do well in the oral interview, and then we have 2 or 3 external candidates, also score 70, they go to the oral interview, they do even better than the promotional candidates. We're going to provide, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to provide the names of the 3 promotional candidates to be hired.
I think we're litigating the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to cut us off because it's also 7:18. So I think right now that there's 2 live questions. There's a question from Commissioner Goldstein, which is there a legal, essentially, difference between having a preference? We're preferencing internal versus external candidates, sure. There are different ways of doing that. Are there different legal standards for the different ways of preferencing them? Right. That's a valid question. Then there's a second question from Commissioner Roeder, which is, do we need to put this into our merit rules rather than just having it be a
practice?
So I'm going to ask a specific question of the director, which is, do you feel it is urgent that we settle this today, or can we wait until the Mildred has her hand up?
Mildred and Sam both have their hands
I will turn to Mildred and Sam after we get this answer from Erin.
All right.
Which is, let me finish answering the question, or asking the question, which is, do we think that we can wait until next meeting, which would be 2 months from now, keep in mind, or do we feel like we want to do something today?
So my preference was that we do something today, but I also realized that it was, going to be, there's going to be a lot of feelings about it and opinions that, so I would love to make a decision today. We have some recruitments that we'd like to, enforce using this new procedure. However, if we're not ready, we're not ready. I would like to hear from Sam and Mildred.
Yeah, let's go to Mildred first and then Sam.
Thank you. So I have just a couple of things that we may consider. I don't know if it will work or not. The only thing that will concern me about what I'm getting ready to say is who will be reviewing the applications. But if the biggest concern is the number of applicants that we are receiving, is there a way where we could look at the date of the applications and then maybe wean them out that way, and that way everybody can have the same passing score, but then wean out when someone applies, so then we're not overwhelmed with applications. I don't know if that will work, but it's just an idea of something to think about. That way, we're not making a preference as far as just the score, because I can see both sides where an outside person can say, well, why are they being scored based off of 70, but I'm not, it's just so many things that could be said. I'm going to always go to past practice. I believe that the score should be 70. Of course, definitely if we decide to go the other route, promotionals need to stay at 70. So, but that's just another way of thinking about it if the biggest concern is the number of applicants that we are receiving.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn to Sam.
I was just looking in the contract because I know that we do have the ability to put language in the CBA with the union about how their members are treated. So I would be interested in hearing what a legal opinion would be based on that. But I do think we do have the ability to treat internal candidates differently than external. And I'm not sure if it needs to be in the merit rules or in just the CBAs for the unions or both. But I think that it's something that we can put in place. I would just, with caution, want to make sure that we're not setting ourselves up for any kind of discrimination suit. But I mean, the reality is anybody can file a discrimination complaint based on anything. So you can't really avoid them. But to the best of our ability, making sure that we have something that's approved would be great.
Yeah, Paula next.
I had a question about the item that was some wording on the item, and I have always in the document about approval of procedures for adjusting examination passing points. So I had made a comment several years ago about when the commission had started doing a curve, rating applicants on a curve and merging the list when you rate applicants from one list on a curve at a higher curve and merging the ones at a lower curve with a passing score at a lower curve. So I had concerns about this years ago, but now I'm looking at this document in front of me and it says that you're looking for raters. Difficulty finding raters. It is not uncommon for written examination to include 30 or more candidates. And then it says, following administration staff must secure qualified raters to score examinations. So what examinations are you talking about here when you're looking for qualified raters? Because you're talking about qualified raters here, and then in another sentence, you talk about panelists to rate. Are we talking about two different things?
So we're talking about, they're all subject matter experts and they're all raters. However, some are rating written exams and some rate oral exams, because not all of our exams are multiple choice. That's easy. We could get those scored, in seconds. But our written exams, sometimes there are, more lengthy, there's a rubric, and so we do use subject matter experts to assist with rating written exams. And we're careful about redacting any personally identifiable information, but we do have raters, and so we often find it challenging to secure raters for that first exam, even for that written exam, because they're not all multiple choice.
So you have different raters grading or scoring the exams for different applicants? Or is it, I'm confused about that. I'm still confused about that process.
Same raters so if a group of library specialists take a written exam, we're going to get 2 raters to score all of those written exams from that one recruitment. So it's the same raters for one recruitment, not for different exams.
So it was my understanding that whoever rates the exams, so are they being rated by the supervisors?
No, they're usually subject matter experts.
I think this is a little bit non sequitur to the question at hand, which is about the last point.
I'm sorry, but I had to step away.
Okay.
And this was the reason why I had raised my hand the first time before I stepped away.
No worries.
So, and it has to do with the passing points and how all of this works out. So thank you for indulging me with those questions.
It is 7:30, and my sense of my colleagues is that for one reason or another, we're not prepared to advance this today. I think one for a procedural reason and one for a more substantive reason, but regardless, it comes to the FIM. So I am going to request that, do we think that we want to schedule a special meeting to discuss this specifically? I'm going to ask that first.
Sorry, Heidi. I don't know personally that we will have the bandwidth to, well, if we do schedule a special meeting, I feel like we should try to get some a legal opinion, maybe some writing for an amendment to our merit rules, or for BCCE to be able to discuss with the district about potentially, BCCE, CBA language being updated. So I think there's a lot of
I'm not a special meeting then, which is fine.
Yeah.
So then I think the request is to do those things you just mentioned and come back at our meeting in 2 months to discuss this. So, make sure the legal question is there a restriction, or is there a more or less sensitive way to preference internal candidates, right? Currently we do that by having a separate list. If we had a different pass point, would that be legally a different standard?
Another way maybe you could put it is, this is very similar to the discussion we had earlier about employment law. On the one hand, the CBA has provisions for, preferencing or prioritizing, and then on the other hand, civil rights law says you can't discriminate, right?
Well, you can't discriminate on the basis of protected status.
Right.
Invidiously discriminate.
So, the question in my mind is there a vulnerability or, liability, or is there a sweet space? And what does that sweet space look like? What can we do in that sweet space?
So, point taken. So we'll ask these district's legal staff. I don't think we have to.
Well, I have to ask somebody that is very familiar with the merit rules and the processes, because not all district council are very familiar with.
Let's start with district staff. And if they feel that they can't give us an expert answer, then first thing, let's start with district staff. If they can't give us an expert answer, maybe they can get an expert answer from someone else.
District legal or
Yes.
district? Okay, district
Right?
legal counsel.
Because district, our legal expenses are supposed to come from the district.
Right.
So if they can't give us an answer, perhaps they can find someone who can, and they can get that.
I also am happy to reach out to CSPCA and then their contacts. They sometimes will call their own legal for questions we've had and not charge us.
Fair enough, and that's another great option. And then we will also prepare this to be incorporated into the merit rules.
Yeah.
So coming back with a draft for incorporating into the merit rules. Were there additional things you wanted to look at in the merit rules?
I did. For
If you can
fear
do
of
another
piling
minute.
on, I'll try to do this in less than 30 seconds. We have had discussions about when it is that the executive director decides to have, for example, 2 written exams instead of 1 written exam and 1 oral exam. And that's caused a little bit of friction from time to time. I think that if Erin would put her thinking cap on and sort of put in writing how that decision is made, and then incorporating that into the merit rules, into this amendment as well, that would be great.
That being said, I think we have our directions to staff clear. Do you guys have any other questions from us to how to proceed for next meeting?
I don't think so. If I can get a lot of things maybe answered and bring something forward sooner, then I will be happy to reach out to you guys about a special meeting.
Great, and I'll be in touch with you also. Why don't you? I'd love to be in touch about the draft of
Yes.
the amendment in advance.
Yes.
All right, I think that. Well, I'm going to cut it there. I think we've had plenty of discussion, and thank you to all of the members of the public. Well, not really the public, the members of the unions and the district for engaging in this discussion. We've had lots of very interesting discussion today. We have one item on our discussion, which is an agenda item request for reclassification. There is no action to take here. It is merely acknowledging receipt of the request for reclassification, and the executive director will engage in that process under our rules. And I don't believe we need to say any more about it than that. Is there any additional public comment on, that is needed at this time? Are there any hands? No? All right. Then lastly, we will, our next meeting will not be in July. It'll be August the 26th at 4:30. All right.
Here.
And in this room?
Yes.
Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Agree.
Thank you all.